Hello Years 5 and 6, I hope that you're all doing well, keeping safe and doing lots of amazing online learning. Hello to the children in school as well, I know you're doing really well. This is a very special lesson, an extra humanities lesson, because there was a special day on Monday of this week. On the 22nd of June, it is Windrush Day, and I have prepared a lesson to teach you all about the Windrush Generation, who they were, what happened to them, etc. And I've learnt quite a lot of new things from preparing the lesson, and a lot of the resources were given to me by Mrs. Watson, and somebody called Genevieve Bent shared those resources with Mrs. Watson. So I hope you enjoy the lesson and learn lots from it. But a quick reminder before we get on to our learning, to send your work from this lesson please to year 5 at grange.harrow.sch.uk if you're in year 5, and if you're in year 6 obviously to the year 6 address. I cannot wait to see your work, and there will be class chart points and shout outs for those children that put in lots and lots of effort. Okay, so what you will definitely need some paper, something to write with, a pen or pencil. You might need some colouring pencils or felt tips if you decide to decorate your work. You will definitely need your reading and writing skills, which I know you've been working really hard on, and also your empathy and your imagination. So you're going to have to put yourselves in the shoes of one of the Windrush generation and empathise, understand how they felt at a particular time, okay? And you will hopefully also be doing some imaginative writing. So if you haven't got the paper and the pencil, please go and get that now. Pause the video. Right, so today is Wednesday the 24th of June 2020, and we are going to be developing an understanding of what the Windrush generation experienced. So whilst I'm reading through the success criteria, please can you copy down the date and the LI. Success criteria. I can explain who the Windrush generation are. I can explain why they came to England. I understand what the Windrush generation experienced whilst living in England. And when I first came to Grange many years ago, I was working in year 6, and every year for the first few years we used to read a story, an autobiography really, called Coming to England, written by a lady called Floella Benjamin. And as soon as I thought of Windrush, this is the book that I thought of. So if you do get a chance to read it, please do. I'm not sure if it's still covered in year 6, but I'm going to put an extract from it on our website by the end of the week as well. So pause the video if you need a bit more time, and then we'll get on to our learning. Right, what I'm going to do is play you a song called Island in the Sun by somebody called Harry Belafonte. The lyrics are on the screen now, and I want you to have a think. What island is this song actually about?
Island in the sun, where my people have toiled since time begun. I may sail on many a sea, her shores will always be home to me. Oh, island in the sun, willed to me by my father's hand. All my days I will sing in praise of your forest waters, your shining sands. As morning breaks, the heaven on high, I lift my heavy load to the sky. Sun comes down with a burning glow, mingles my sweat with the earth below. Oh.
Okay, so having a look at the words and also the pictures on the screen, have a think about which island or islands in the sun you think Harry Belafonte is singing about, because that will give you a big clue about where the Windrush Generation originate from. So think about, for example, it says the shining sand, that there is lots of sunshine. In the final verse, which I didn't play for you, but it says, I see a woman on bended knee cutting cane for her family. What is cane? Well done, sugar cane. Now sugar cane grows in hot, sunny places like the Caribbean. So Harry Belafonte is singing about islands such as Jamaica and Trinidad and others in the Caribbean. Okay. Okay, so now we've got a picture of the Empire Windrush ship. And can you recognise any of the flags at the top? Just note down your ideas on your piece of paper and take a moment to see if you can answer the 4 W's. So, what is this ship? Where is it going to and from? Can you think of a time period when this could be happening? And why? Why are these people migrating from one place to another place? Okay, so as I said at the beginning, the 22nd of June is now annual Windrush Day. It's to mark the arrival of the hundreds of West Indians to the UK aboard the Empire Windrush, the big ship. And remember, the West Indian people are from the Caribbean. Okay, so there's actually now a special day to mark this, and we're going to learn why. So we're going to learn who the Windrush Generation are, why they're important, and why do they matter, because they've made a huge contribution to our society in England. So the Windrush Generation were a group of people from the Caribbean who were called by the British government to work and live in the UK. They arrived in Tilbury in Essex aboard the Empire Windrush on the 22nd of June 1948. So see if you can do a little bit of maths. Exactly how many years ago would that have been? There were around 800 young Caribbean men and women who all arrived with dreams and goals for their mother country. Okay? And this map just shows us the journey that they took. So the Caribbean islands are off the coast of America, and they include Jamaica, Trinidad, Bermuda, and others. So they sailed across the Atlantic to England, and they docked at Essex at Tilbury. Okay, and this happened, as I said, in 1948. There you can see some photographs from the ship. Why did they come over? Up until the early 1960s, many of the Caribbean islands and countries in Africa, Asia, and around the world were under British colonial rule. They were part of the British Empire. Now, children in Year 6, earlier this year we did some humanities learning about the British rule in Africa and in India, and this is another part of their empire, the Caribbean islands. The Caribbean was known as the British West Indies, which is where the term West Indian comes from. The Queen was the head of state for all these countries, and in 1948, the 1948 British Nationality Act was passed, granting all members of the British Empire citizenship, and the right to live in the UK. After 2 wars and the recent end of World War II in 1945, the UK needed to rebuild its country and its economy. So the British government advertised opportunities for employment, which attracted many people to leave the Caribbean for the UK. So they were basically promised jobs, all these people from the Caribbean. Let's find out what happened. So this is a picture of part of Britain after the end of World War II. So we can see that there is a lot of rebuilding, reconstruction needed, and that's why lots of people were called from the Caribbean to help with rebuilding the country and the economy. So the Empire Windrush, HMT Empire Windrush, was originally a cruise ship called Monte Rosa, used in Germany in the 1930s, and was also used as a transportation vessel in World War II. In 1948, Empire Windrush travelled from Australia to London, but it docked in Kingston, Jamaica. And after a newspaper advert promising employment in London, people across the Caribbean decided to embark upon this journey to the mother country. There were almost 1,100 people aboard the Windrush, which arrived in Tilbury on the 22nd of June 1948, for most of which Britain was their final destination. But what does the Windrush Generation mean? Windrush Generation is the term used for the group of settlers which arrived from the British West Indies between 1948 and the early 1960s. So it wasn't just all those people that arrived in 1948. People kept coming throughout the 1950s and early 1960s. Now, although we talk about the Windrush Generation mainly about those on the ship Windrush, as I said, many Caribbean came afterwards as well. And what this marked was the start of multicultural Britain, okay, the Britain that we all live in right now, and the development of modern Britain that we know today. This is a poem by John Aggard called Windrush Child, and I want you to take some inspiration from it, because your first task in this lesson is going to be to put yourselves in the shoes of somebody who was travelling on that Windrush Empire ship from the Caribbean to England. So I'm going to read you the poem. Windrush Child. Behind you, Windrush Child, palm trees wave goodbye. Above you, Windrush Child, seabirds asking why. Around you, Windrush Child, blue water rolling by. Beside you, Windrush Child, your Windrush mum and dad. Think of Storytime Yard and mango mornings, and new beginnings, doors closing and opening. Will things turn out right? At least the ship will arrive in midsummer light. And you, Windrush Child, think of Grandma, telling you don't forget to write. And with one last hug, walk good, and the sea's wheel carries on spinning. And from that place, England, you tell her in a letter of your Windrush adventure, stepping in a big ship, not knowing how long the journey, or that you're stepping into history, bringing your Caribbean eye to another horizon. Grandmother's words, your shining beacon, learning how to fly the kite of your dreams in an English sky. Windrush Child, walking good, in a mind-opening meeting of snow and sun. So, there you can infer lots of the feelings of children, because there was definitely children on the ship as well, the things that they were leaving behind and the things that they were coming towards. So what I want you to do, sorry, I got a little bit cut off there. What I would like you to do is listen to a song coming up on the next slide, as it's going to help you understand more about why the people from the Caribbean were keen to come to England. The song is called London is the Place for Me, and it's a 1948 calypso song by Aldwin Roberts. Roberts, under his calypso stage name, was called Lord Kitchener, and he sang the first two stanzas, like the first two verses, of this song on camera for reporters upon arrival at Tilbury Docks on the HMT Empire Windrush. Okay, so your Windrush Task 1. Imagine that you were one of those people embarking on Empire Windrush, leaving for the UK. Create a short piece which describes your feelings and thoughts about leaving your home in the Caribbean for the UK. What are your hopes and dreams? What might you miss about home? So use the poem by John Aggard, The Windrush Child, and also the lyrics from the song by Lord Kitchener to give you some ideas. Also, think about any of your own experience that you and your family might have had moving from your home country to England. You have complete freedom to be creative. Write a poem, a letter, or a diary entry. You could even make a short video or draw a picture with speech or thought bubbles. Now, children, this doesn't need to be a really long piece of writing, okay? Because there's another writing task coming at the end. I'd rather you really focus on the quality of your writing or your drawing with the speech and thought bubbles. And I cannot wait to see that. So pause the video now, decide what you're going to do. Remember, if it's a letter or a diary entry, remember all the features of that type of writing that I'm sure you've learnt about in your English lessons. And then I'll see you back for part 2 of this lesson. Well done, everybody. Okay, so welcome to part 2. How were the Windrush generation welcomed? The arrival of Windrush and the immigrants was big news. Many newspaper reporters greeted them to take pictures of the arrivals and interview some of them. However, members of Parliament, MPs, complained after the Windrush arrival, urging for controls on immigration. The British people were also not happy to see so many black people in their country, and this marked the start of difficulty ahead for the Windrush generation. For the right to stay for all descendants and close family of the Windrush generation. A hostile environment. The Windrush generation were not welcomed by the British citizens. They were racially abused, refused housing, refused employment, harassed by the police, bullied in schools by students and teachers, and made to feel like unwanted, illegal aliens. They were refused all these basic human rights because they were black. Many of the settlers were forced to live in the underground shelters that were built for the war, such as the Clapham shelter. So you can see there that it was completely different to what the people, the Windrush generation, had hoped they would find in the UK. In 1968, the Race Relations Act was passed, making it illegal to discriminate against someone because of their race, ethnicity, or nationality. This followed on from the Race Relations Act 1965, which only addressed discrimination in public places. So you can see there that the law was changed so that it was actually illegal to discriminate against someone because of their race, ethnicity, or nationality. Now, this is a really important thing to understand. How did the Windrush generation contribute to the UK? Almost all the adults who arrived over the number of years had vocations, trades, and skills that made them highly employable. A vocation is a job like being a doctor or a nurse or a teacher. And these people from Jamaica, many of them were nurses, electricians, seamstresses, that means dressmakers, woodworkers, and so much more. So after the Race Relations Act in 1968, they were able to find more employment. So part of their situation began to improve, especially in London, because London had become increasingly diverse and the economy began to grow more and more. So there you can see some of the immigrants taking on jobs as nurses and medical professionals, as carpenters, shoemakers. Their impact, despite the hardships and struggles they faced, the resilience, optimism and perseverance that these people had made a huge impact on the British society. And even now, in the coronavirus crisis, many of our NHS workers are immigrants, people from different countries who have come with their skills to help us in Britain. Sound systems. Sound systems were a cheaper alternative to live music, and they were played on the streets around the island of Jamaica. As Caribbean people moved to Britain in larger numbers, they brought the sound system along with them. They weren't welcome at traditional clubs and could not hear the music that they loved, so parties were set up locally in houses or private spaces, and reggae, calypso, ska, and lovers rock music of sound systems were enjoyed. And an important part of all of this is Notting Hill, and some of you might have heard of the Notting Hill Carnival. So it says, as areas such as Ladbroke Grove became more and more inhabited and influenced by West Indian people, racial tensions between white British and West Indians increased. In 1958, following the racially motivated killing of an Antiguan man, Kelso Cochrane, racial riots broke out in Notting Hill. These were called the 1958 Notting Hill riots. When it said Antiguan man, that means someone that comes from the island of Antigua, another one of the Caribbean islands. Claudia Jones, a Trinidadian woman and Notting Hill resident, came up with the idea of recreating a smaller scale version of the now world famous Trinidadian Carnival. So Trinidad, another one of the Caribbean islands. This was to try to bring together the different communities of London. What started off as a small scale and indoor carnival party has now grown to be the biggest street festival in Europe. Okay, so you can see these sort of early beginnings of the Notting Hill Carnival and then getting a bit closer to the present day. Okay, amazing costumes. I've been to this carnival once and it really is amazing. They have a Children's Day. Brixton and Notting Hill Ladbroke Grove had the largest inhabitants of Black Caribbean migrants. Brixton is well known for being a hub of the Windrush community. From the food markets selling Caribbean foods to the sound system and record shops to the community centres. Such was the influence of the Windrush Generation on Brixton that in 1998 the area outside of Brixton's Tate Library was renamed Windrush Square. There it is there. And there's Bob Marley, very famous singer, visiting Brixton. There's the sound system. Right, your final task today. Now that you have more information of what the Windrush Generation actually experienced, pretend that you are one of them and write a letter back home to your family in the Caribbean explaining what it was really like to live in England. Did living in England meet your expectations? Were you able to find work? What difficulties did you encounter? What did you miss most about home? Were you still able to enjoy some aspects of Caribbean culture whilst living in the UK? So think about the Notting Hill Carnival there. And in next week's lesson, we're going to learn a bit more about what happened more recently in 2017, the Windrush scandal. Well done, everybody. I know I've thrown a huge amount of information at you, but I wanted to show you kind of both parts of what the Windrush Generation experienced. Reminder there, please send your work to the email addresses. Cannot wait to see it. Have a great rest of the week. Stay safe, and if you've got any questions, please ask. Well done, everybody. Bye for now.